You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are The Breakfast Club. We got some special guests in the building. I'm going to F y'all name up, so I'm just going to tell y'all this immediately.
How can you F up Carmen Perez?
I got Tamika Mallory.
Yes.
I got Carmen Perez.
Linda Sarsour.
Yes.
Linda Sarsour. Don't act like you knew.
What you was going to say? What you was going to say? Sarsour?
Yeah, I was.
He probably was going to say
that. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Oh, we sound like the chorus.
That was a good.
Now, the Women's March on Washington. What is it and what's it about?
Well, the Women's March on Washington was announced right after the election, the day after the election, by a woman in Hawaii, a grandmother, retired grandmother, who sent an invitation to 40 of her friends saying that she wanted to march, and 10,000 people responded to her invitation.
Wow.
By the time we received the call, because the event was basically announced by white women, and by the time they called us to ask women of color to get involved and to help really set the tone and agenda for this effort, it was up to about 100,000 people.
Wow.
At this point, we're at about 245,000 people who are interested in coming or registered at some place or some forum. And so the purpose of the march is really to ensure that this incoming administration, as well as our Senate, our Congress, and everyone else, knows that women's rights are human rights and they won't be rolled back. I mean, we're going to Washington to really deal with the racism, sexism, misogyny, and all the different issues, the isms that have oppressed people for a long time before Donald Trump even became a thing. And so many will gather, but it's not just women, it's families, the entire family, because the woman holds the entire family on our backs.
Why are they trying to paint it as an anti-Trump demonstration?
Well, because people are not necessarily sophisticated in their political understanding. I mean, we particularly, you had us here when we marched from New York City to Washington, D.C., so we've been protesting a long time. We would have been going to Washington, Trump, no Trump, Hillary Clinton, it didn't matter to us. And so, a lot of people and a lot of people should be concerned about Donald Trump. He is an issue.
Absolutely.
But there are other people and other elements that need to be addressed.
And there's also a saying in Kingian Nonviolence, in the ideology of Dr. King, that says attack the forces of evil, not people doing evil. And so it's beyond Trump, right? It's the fact that in this country, in the fabric of this country, there's racism, there's sexism. And so we need to look beyond Trump, obviously address him, let him know that we're watching him, but also know that we have to deal with the systemic racism and all the stuff that comes with it.
And Trump is a narcissist, right? The brother wants us to say it's about him, and it ain't about him. And I think what we're the tone we're setting for people is that this ain't always about what we're against. We're always against racism. We're always against police brutality. We're always against segregation. But we're trying to tell people it's time to say what you're for. What do you stand for?
What are the
What are your
solutions?
values?
Yeah.
What do you stand for? What are the solutions? What kind of world do you envision versus we're always trying to survive, but it's time that we start talking about how we thrive in this country, and that's what we're hoping the tone that we set is.
And it's right after Inauguration Day.
The next day, the first day.
And also my birthday.
Happy early born day. Are you? I don't want to say afraid. Afraid is not the right word. Are you concerned that it's the day after the election? I'm sure there'll be a lot of Trump supporters. Inauguration.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of Trump supporters still in D.C.
Yeah, no. I mean, we don't get tired. We don't get afraid. I mean, our brother, my son, Lennon, marched with us from New York City to Washington, D.C., and on the road, you could, there was all kinds of stuff happening. People, KKK yelling at us, blowing smoke back in our face in cars, calling us all types of N-words and what have you. We're used to that. We deal with this all the time. Now, there's some people who are really concerned. Is there going to be security? Do we got bike racks? You got porta potties? You got a permit? All those things. And we are making sure that this event is properly secured.
That's interesting because we were talking behind the scenes about overt racism, and have you ever experienced that? And I know I said I have. Charlamagne, you said you've never really experienced somebody just...
I'm sure I've experienced covertly, but I've never had a white man call me a nigga to my face or anything to that nature.
Right, but I think we have to get to the point where hearing them say it about someone else means it's overt, right?
Absolutely.
So we feel it, and that's what this is about. This is about the fact that we have to respect one another's justices. So for some people, it's reproductive justice, right? But for others, it's racial justice, and we're going to Washington, D.C. in solidarity with women. A lot of them have never marched anywhere before in their lives, and if you read our Facebook page, you'll see all these women talking about, I didn't even know that racism existed existed. I thought we had gotten past it. And they really believe this, but they are now beginning to see that there are some serious issues. And I'm excited that this particular convening is opening the eyes of folks who have never, ever paid attention to these issues before.
And it's historical. It's the first time in any president's history for this type of mass mobilization to happen on their first day.
How do y'all respond, though? Like, you mentioned the KKK was blowing smoke and people were throwing things. How do you guys respond to that when y'all...
More Martin or Malcolm?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
I think
some of us don't do Martin.
And we also have to dispel the myth.
Absolutely.
All the way. My son is Huey P.
Yeah, but certainly we have to dispel the myth that Martin was soft, right? Because Martin was radical, and it's the reason why he was assassinated, right? He was moving towards something.
The Poor
greater.
Man March.
The Poor People's Campaign and all. But certainly the way in which we respond is that we show something different, right? Obviously, you see us here. We are 3 women of color representing the targets of Donald Trump, right? I'm Mexican American. Linda Sarsour is Palestinian from Brooklyn. Obviously, Tamika, she's African American, and so like we go out and we see our liberation bound in one another, and so we're gonna fight for that no matter what, and we're gonna show people that they could do the same and create entry points. And so when we say that there are women here who have never been, who have never marched or have never participated in protests, there's an opportunity here, and that's what we're trying to do is give them direction. Right. So it's not really necessarily about January 21st. Yes, we want people there. We need them there. We need to show critical resistance through numbers, but we also want people to go back to their communities and to organize and to tap into communities and to actually do something. So we're trying to ignite a spark that will continue beyond January 21st.
Are you shocked that you're receiving some pushback? Like, I even saw a woman write an article, and she said, I think her name was, I can't pronounce her name. It's like Sheikha Dalmia or something, but she said that the march has already failed because it's a feel-good exercise in search of a cause, and it fizzles and fails at doing that. But every time I read about it, I understand what the cause is. I
mean, that the issue is, and we've had critics. I mean, that's what happens. If you don't have critics, you're not doing the right thing. That's and people got to be in the organizing to know who the people are that are behind this. There are people here, we've gotten arrested in civil disobedience. We understand intersectionality. I'm Muslim, to your point about discrimination. There are people in our country who get attacked on the streets of their own community just for the virtue of who they are. We deport 1,000 immigrants every single day in this country. So people are, what kind of feel-good exercise? We're doing mass mobilization. We are people with full-time jobs who have dedicated every extra hour in our lives. Some of us got kids that we got to take care of. And we're out here talking about protecting our communities. We standing out here saying and sending a strong message that nobody's going to ignore when you see the amount of people out there that we're watching you, but we're also going to defend our communities by any means necessary. So I don't understand where people come up with these things. And sometimes people want to ride our coattails, like Women's March on Washington. There's a lot of media out there. So if you want to get trending, you want to say something about the march, but you haven't even reached out to us. Right. Like, you want to have a conversation about feel-good exercise and you think that's what it is? Let's have a conversation. Our emails are public. Our phone numbers are public. We are public people. We are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. So it bothers me sometimes that people are creating these opinions without actually having the real conversations and the courageous conversations that we need to have.
I was going to ask, how do you fund your beliefs? Because, I mean, like you said, it costs money to do this.
Yeah.
So people who can't be at the march, how can they support the cause financially?
So I'm the head of fundraising. You
got to put money in the ball right in your lap. She's like, here you go.
There you go. You got to put the Arab girl from Brooklyn head of fundraising. Look, this costs money. Freedom ain't free in this country. If you wanna fight for your right to this country, you got to pay. And it's either you pay now or you're gonna pay later, and it's not gonna be pretty. You go to thewomensmarch.com and you donate there. You have to understand, once again, we have full-time jobs here. We got families, and we are putting everything that we can to make sure people feel safe when they get there. Handicap accessible porta potties, a stage. If you 12 blocks down, you got to hear what's happening at the rally. There's no point of you coming all the way out there. Jumbotrons, like security, insurance, like this is a mass operation.
Right.
So
production.
We need money. We need to raise money, and we've been fortunate that people have supported us, and we've been working with organizations that have come through for us, including Planned Parenthood, NRDC, which is a climate justice organization. We've had individual donors, women of color donors.
SEIU
Labor has come through for us. So womensmarch.com, donate to us, believe in us and believe in our vision, and to know that we are centering the most marginalized communities, and you are investing in the leadership of not just women, but women of color. Like, the time is now for us to get our due credit for the work and the shoulders of the giants that we stand on. Like, we're not the first people to do a march. Like, we know that. We are carrying on a legacy, and we hope people see this, because it is a historic. Like, we know we're making history. Like, that's why we're invested in this.
It's interesting. I feel like it'd have been powerful regardless of who won the election, though. Because even if it was Hillary, y'all still would have had to mobilize and say, "Look, we're not comfortable just because we got to win."
I wasn't on that team anyway, brother.
I don't think any of us were on that
team.
team.
And you know what? We absolutely would have had to. Now, would these same women have been involved? Not sure. Probably would have been us out here. So sometimes God will take what is bad and make it good. And so when we look at Donald Trump, that is like, for some people, it's such a shock. For us, it's the reality that we live in and exist in all the time. But it's probably a good thing for some folks that this is actually waking them up and forcing them to come to the table, because they're afraid. And everyone has a different entry point. We've been asking white women, where have you been? Where were you when Sandra Bland was killed? Where were you for Trayvon Martin? Where were you? And the list goes on. Eric Garner, all the names. But we're glad that you're here now. And now you actually need to kind of be quiet and listen and learn. And they're not having the easiest time dealing with that. But there are some who are willing to be like real allies. They're at the table and they really, really want to be engaged. But it's not just them. For the purpose of this show, our own people need to get up off of our asses. Like, we also, because we have to be in the front of our issues if we want other people to be pushing us from behind.
How different are white women's rights versus women of color's rights?
Well, I mean, certainly that has been the topic of conversation
white
for
feminism
this, white feminism,
black feminism,
and you know,
feminism.
and when you look at reproductive rights, you know, that's a big issue, which black women care about reproductive rights as well. But we're like, okay, I have a reproductive rights issue, and then I also can't get a job, and then my husband is mass incarcerated and all of that. So for them, they are dealing with many of the symptoms of sort of the cancer, the sickness that we're dealing with every day. So they got like the arm hurting. You know, they got a headache, but we're dealing with like the whole body is dying. And so the intersectionality piece is important. And again, having everyone come together to respect one another's justice, what it is that we're fighting for is what this whole effort is about.
But also show up for one another. Right. Like a lot of us, I know Linda and myself show up for Black Lives Matter, also Palestinian rights. And my family's personally impacted by incarceration. So for me, that's what I've dedicated the last 20 years in. And so to actually be part of this march and reach out on my own, I'm responsible for partnerships. And so a lot of the people that I'm talking to,
Seriously, turn that phone off.
That's right. I'm responsible for partnerships for this march, and so I'm speaking to people that I haven't necessarily built with, and so it's a learning opportunity. I'm talking, you know, how are we really being intentional about being intersectional, because we can't cover every issue on stage, right? But we're not going to be able to go ahead.
No, but to your point about the issues, this is an education process. We're pushing a conversation that people don't want to have. So people say, "Oh, pay equity. We gotta get paid the same as men, right?"
Equality. And then you say pay equity.
Yeah, but no, I say pay equity. But but we say
equality.
But what we say to them is that that's true. Women don't get paid the same as men. But let's look at how much Black women and Hispanic women, which is even less than white women, even reproductive rights. Let's say they close down Planned Parenthood, right? A white woman can still find a way to pay and go get an abortion somewhere in a private clinic, but low-income women, immigrant women, if they don't got a Planned Parenthood type situation, they're not going to be able to get the access to the health care that they need. So we're pushing the conversation further.
And if they're also, you know, about to be deported, you ain't really thinking about all that other stuff. Again, like when it compared to white women and women of color, there's so many layers to our struggle, right? And there was something so profound. I work for Harry Belafonte, so we stand on the shoulders of giants. And he said, you know, white women live in their privilege where women of color survive in their struggle. And that was deep for me, because oftentimes, you know, when I'm like in these spaces, whether it's like planning a march from New York City to DC, or you're trying to build intergenerational relationships, I go back to him and I'm like, I need some guidance. And so he breaks it down for me where I didn't even think about it, because sometimes we could get caught up in our ego. But this march for me, we've prepared for this moment. All of us have 20 years of experience in movement building, criminal justice, police accountability.
My patience still being tested, sister. I know.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, but it's prepared us for this moment to actually lead in this space. And again, like, the fact that we also have our elders that are supporting us in this space. Mr. Belafonte being a part of the original March on Washington, cultivating the leadership of young women to actually lead in this moment is huge. That is legacy. That is the passing of the baton.
That's right.
And so we also have other honorary co-chairs like Gloria Steinem and Dolores Huerta just came on board yesterday. But again, you know, this is a moment that we're trying to ensure that we give people direction.
Did you tell Harry we want him on the Breakfast Club?
Oh, yeah.
We'd love to have Mr. Belafonte.
I'll be
on the
seeing
Breakfast
him
Club.
tomorrow.
I did an event with him, but I was just, he looked like he didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to.
He's actually not like that, though.
He's
He
not.
really
He's
isn't.
very
Yeah.
charismatic.
Yeah, he's cool, but he didn't want to. He feel like he didn't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a
brother's
question
90
that-
years old.
That's true.
That's true.
You know, we talk about being educated, right? So it's just gonna sound like a stupid question, but I always wanted to know
Oh God.
Yeah.
the term. Why you say yeah like that?
Because we know
The
already
term
something.
Arab or Arab.
I
You
don't
know
think
what
you're
it?
supposed to say Arab.
No, because when the song came out, it was
Oh,
Arab
God.
money. So I was like, I thought it was a effed up way to say it, but it seemed like it was okay.
Brother, hip hop is what made my community cool. Palestine got cool because hip hop made it cool. I mean, Arab is like when people say it, it's not supposed to be how you say it. It's kind of like when you say spick about like Hispanics, you're technically not supposed to say
slur.
that.
It's a slur.
It's kind of
So
like
it
a
is a
slur.
slur.
It's kind of a slur, but for Arabs that grew up like in black communities and they had friends who were black, like you let it slide. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Right.
Because that was like.
But would you
intermin-
correct somebody and say,
Oh yeah. If I didn't know you like that, you and I wasn't down, I'm gonna correct you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're one of those people who I say have the double prejudices because you're a woman and you're Palestinian
And I'm Muslim.
and Muslim.
I mean, and that's the other thing also about being able to educate people. Like, we're trying to make sure that the program of the march is really reflective. So, like, for example, we got a hip hop artist. She's black. She's Muslim. She wears hijab. She's from Oakland, California, named Alia Sharif. Like, we want to show people, like, what you think a Muslim looks like. You
Right.
think we belong in on a camel somewhere on the other side of the world. Like, black Muslims are a third of my community. They've been here before this. They came as slaves to this country. And when we think about Muhammad Ali, everybody's like Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, like those brothers were Muslim. Like, you gotta respect the legacy that we also bring to the table. So that's another educational process that people are like, oh, Muhammad Ali was Muslim. I was like, where
Where you been?
It's so funny. Speaking of that, I'm like, you guys still got the liquor behind us. Like, when the minister was here, that
was
changed
Charlamagne.
some things out. What happened? Like,
Charlamagne's like, you gotta move all this.
y'all are cleaning up for the minister.
The minister's like the old grandfather who come to the house and say, "What you doing in here,
Minister
son?"
Farrakhan is amazing. And, you know, we were co-conveners. I actually was co-executive director along with Reverend Jamal Bryant of the Million Man March Justice or Else that just happened last October. And so, again, this for us is just what we do. It's, you know, we're scheduling January 21st between dealing with Raise the Age in New York, which is where in New York City and North Carolina, the only two states left, New York State, excuse me, and North Carolina, the only two states left to try teenagers
16-year-olds as adults.
16 and 17-year-olds
And put them
as
in adult
adults.
prisons.
Put them in adult prisons. And Justice League, the group, that initiative that we are constantly working through, we are fighting that. And then we probably would have been dealing with like Jeff Sessions, this new attorney general pick that is horrible,
Racist as
disgusting,
hell.
racist, doesn't need to be. We couldn't get justice under Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch.
Right.
Two black people, okay, who both of them have exhibited some concern for the community, and we couldn't get justice under them. So now we're about to have a racist bigot to become the top cop in this country, and we got black folks that's running around talking about turn up. It's not the time for
No,
that.
it's not the time to turn up. That's why I said what happened in Chicago the other day was just wrong. Like when they kidnapped the guy and tortured him, like that's not helping the movement.
Nah,
brothers.
Chicago is whoa.
And I think that's the thing, right? So we're still working our full-time jobs. I'm the executive director of the Gathering for Justice. We work on criminal justice reform, policy. Raise the Age is our major campaign right now, along with the coalition, which we call Justice Now. And so, like, we want to ensure that young people are invested in, right? So when you're talking about the violence that's happening in Chicago, we had regional leaders in the Gathering that were working. There was a young man by the name of Darian Albert who was going to a charter school that ended up getting killed because he was crossing so many borders, right? So how do we create positive alternatives for So we're still doing that. Meanwhile, we're working on this
That's
women's
right.
march and having to deal with every element of it, right? From producing the march to creating a mission, a vision,
Raising money.
partnerships, websites,
A lot
taking out
happening.
the trash. Like, yo, we do it all. And that's the beautiful thing about the work that we do in sisterhood. And like, we are truly a family.
I remember going to the Million Man March and feeling like it was really powerful. Do you feel like men are supporting?
Oh
women's
yeah,
marches?
actually
Yeah,
we
as
are. We
much.
have the whole family coming out. I mean, I've been receiving emails every day where it's like my great grandmother, my grandmother, my husband, my son, and the newborn baby are all going to the Women's March on Washington. So yeah, the whole family is a part of this. And I mean, you know, we have men who are involved. Our attorneys are both men. Just so happen. Well, Ting Ting is a woman. My son is dealing with security. So we have a lot of men who are involved in helping us, and we appreciate you all bringing us on this platform because some of the information that's out there, as you said, is not the right information. It's not correct. There's a lot of misinformation.
It's not anti-Trump.
It's not anti-Trump, and we need to get a message across. Now, I'm anti-Trump, me
Yeah.
personally.
Me too.
But the point of the march is
not.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
march
That's
isn't.
right.
But to your point, you know, I've been doing this work for 20 years. I've been separated from my family since I was young. My family lives in Southern California. I went to UC Santa Cruz, left. I had a sister killed, buried on my birthday. So my birthday doing this march is huge. It's a distraction so I could actually celebrate. But I got a call from my older brother who's bringing his family. And they've never, and it's not a knock on my family, is, you know, they don't really know what you do. Criminal justice, you're going into prisons, you're going to El Salvador to support a peace process between gang members. Like, what do you do, right? And so when I got the call, I wasn't able to go home for Christmas or Thanksgiving because of this march. But he's like, I'm coming to you, and I'm bringing my family. And that, to me, is the world. Like, the fact my older brother, who, again, they don't understand what you do. I don't think any of our family members, they just know we're gone. We're always gone. We don't got time. But men are showing up, and they've been showing up. And so, like, when you see people like my son setting things up like this for us, it's the support and love that he has for us. But the fact that, you know, there was a lot of question, is this also an anti-man?
Yeah, we shutting that
Yeah.
down. This
It's
is not
not.
this is not like typical traditional like white feminism, like bra burning, like we hate men. Like
Yeah,
we have men in
because-
our lives.
Yeah,
we got
absolutely.
partners. We got we got sons. Like we're not
And
allowing this.
That's
to
part
be,
of Black feminism and Chicana feminism, is that we were struggling with our brothers,
Yeah.
right? Where in fact white women had access to white men, their white husbands, their white fathers, their white sons, where we were like, yo, we trying to get the same boat with you. Like, we're still trying to gain things with you. We got to elevate you because we know you're going to pull us up too.
Right.
We have the men supporters, but I had 5 emails, and there was this one brother that wrote a Huffington Post piece talk about you got to change the name of the march from the Women's March on Washington to the People's March. You know, white man, and these other 4 guys. I looked them up on social media because I didn't want to stereotype, but of course they were all white guys too. And there was like, no. I was like, you got to be okay with a woman-led march. Like, if you ain't okay with that, then you're just not invited. Like, I'm not changing the name of the march for you. Like, that's just not happening. That's it.
I never understand why people get upset when you embrace your struggle. Like, you embrace what you are.
That's
Like, I
right.
don't.
Like,
I don't
I'm
get
not black. I show up to a Black Lives Matter protest, or I'm in a movement. I'm not like, please make that all lives matter so I could feel comfortable.
Right.
Like, if
Because
you
that's
ain't down
what
with
it
Black
is.
Lives,
Yeah.
don't come to
Showing
the
your
table.
support.
Do you
That's
support women? Then go to the women.
That's
march.
it.
Like,
That's
Like,
right.
what's the
That's
problem?
it.
Why
It's
everything
simple.
got to be?
Because
you know,
at the end of the day, you know, we gonna deal with your issues anyway. Like, it's not like we just are going to Washington to talk about issues that relate to somebody who has a vagina. We also are dealing with, like, my 17-year-old black son. His issues when he leaves the house. I'm not sure if
You got
he's
a
gonna get-
17-year-old black son?
I do.
You
I
look
do.
17.
His name is Tariq. Yeah, I do.
She cute. She cute. I got a
No, I
17-year-old
do.
son
I
too.
have a 17-year-old son, and I don't know if he's gonna get shot by Ray Ray or a police officer.
Right.
So I'm dealing with that as well. When I go to Washington, I want to know why there's not more resources going to anti-violence groups like Erica Ford, A.T. Mitchell, those who are working in the belly of the hood. And then I also want to know why police officers are not being held accountable for killing black men and young women. I need to understand both issues, and I can hold both those things at the same time.
There you go.
I just like the fact that, you know, it's a lot of togetherness. Like, it's, you know, it's y'all three, then you say it's a lot of white women involved. Because I always think of the scripture Ephesians 6:12. I really feel like that's where we're at right now. For our struggle's not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and the authorities and
That's right.
the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil. I feel like we're in a real
That's profound.
Dark
Deep.
place.
Deep.
I feel like we're in a real dark place right now. So we all need to be together. Like, good need to be with good to ride against evil.
So we also have a co-chair, another there's 4 of us that are co-chairs. One is the founder, Bob Bland. She's a white woman, and so she's, you know, also working with us. We have a national committee, national organizing committee, that's made up of all different ethnic backgrounds. And so, you know, I just got to give a shout out to my partner, Paola Mendoza.
Yeah,
Paola.
Cassidy, and I have my executive assistants in Singapore. So, like, you know, we have people that are just supporting from everywhere.
Now tell the people how they can get involved if they want to get involved.
womensmarch.com, Women's March on Washington on Facebook, Women's March on Twitter. You know, our emails are all our first names, and at womensmarch.com. Like, we made it easy. Like, you got no reason to not know how to be involved in this march. You know, our social media is every day, it's updated. There's posts. We give reading lists. We giving you recommended readings. Like, we really have been super intentional about how we're organizing and how you can get involved. Again, womensmarch.com. If you got a bus coming, y'all better register that bus, because you ain't going to have parking when you get to Washington, D.C. if you don't tell us you got a bus. That's mad important. That's like the drama, brother.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how you're going to park all those buses. That's like
the buses.
the buses.
The buses and the porta potty.
Those are the drama.
And it's January 21st, right?
Yep.
January
Yes.
21st, 10 o'clock in the morning. Meet us in Washington, D.C.
Independence Avenue, Southwest,
No,
and 3rd Street. I got
wait,
it.
hold
I
on.
know, I said it all
Independence
messed up, New
Avenue.
Yorker.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Independence
you got it.
Avenue, 3rd
Brooklyn.
Street, Southwest.
Southwest.
Independence Avenue, 3rd Street, Southwest.
There we
Okay.
go.
Well, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you
you
guys
so
for coming
much.
up. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
The Breakfast Club. Every weekday morning. Tune in